Good to see you all, and I apologize about last week. Um, Travel can be a little crazy, but I am going to share my screen. This is our 4th month. Kind of excited. Um, and um, anyway, I'm excited to see you all. We're gonna talk about, I know last time we talked about demand and understanding demand, market opportunities. I'm going to kind of do a bit of a refresh since it's been a while. But then we're going to talk about like how do you actually select, a value chain or a market opportunity? Like, well, how do you decide if you have multiple things to decide on? So we're gonna do our icebreaker stuff. We're gonna reflect on any demand research anybody has done or any demand partners folks have identified and learn about how to actually choose a market opportunity and what are some of the ways that you would actually do that, different methods for making those decisions. So I thought we'd do a holiday icebreaker since it was just Thanksgiving and the holidays, various holidays are coming up. So, um, yes. Anyway, I will start. So again, Melissa Levy with NATO, and I want to get out of here so I can take notes. But my favorite holiday food, well, since it was just Thanksgiving, I love Thanksgiving because I don't eat meat, but there's so many like side dishes that are not meat that it's quite helpful. Um, but my favorite is actually a pie, which is my stepmother makes this delicious chocolate bourbon pecan pie. Anyway, that is my favorite. So anyway, Ian, I'm just calling on people on my screen, but yeah, Ian, how are you doing?
Good afternoon, everyone. Doing well. Ian McCain with the City of East Point. Here as SEMCOG's partner organization there with David Struck. And favorite Thanksgiving food, or holiday food, that's a tough one. You know what? I'll say something that I haven't had yet, but is a very I like to
Oh,
have around this time of year is like a
yeah.
honey ham. So,
Ooh,
mhm.
okay. Cool. All right. All right, Edwin, how are you doing?
Hello, I'm doing good today. I'm Edwin from the East Central Florida Regional Planning Council. My favorite holiday food, ooh, that's very tough. Um, I would say sweet potato pie. It's not a
Ooh,
dish, more of a dessert, but yeah,
that's
I look forward
okay.
to eating that at the end of the year.
I made one once. It was very delicious. I really liked it. So nice.
Yeah.
Colleen, how are you doing?
Okay, there, I found it. I'm doing all right. Colleen Nelson with the Lake Champlain Lake George Regional Planning Board. Um, uh, yes, I don't know, squash because I make it make it
Mm,
fresh. Don't get that
nice.
frozen stuff anymore.
Mm,
And it came out really well this year. So,
nice. Yeah, my one job at Thanksgiving is to make mashed potatoes because I'm not hosting it, but like that's the thing I always make, and that is my other favorite thing is just potatoes of any kind, but especially mashed potatoes. My kids don't eat mashed potatoes. It is troubling. I'm not sure what it's about. I think it's texture, maybe. I can't figure it out, but seems un-American. But David, how are you doing?
Hey, everybody, I'm doing well. Dave Struck, I am the Economic Development Coordinator with the Southeast Michigan Council of Governments, the Detroit region. And in terms of Thanksgiving, I probably have an unpopular take here, but I actually kind of find Thanksgiving dinner kind of overrated. Um,
Yeah.
but I mean, if I had to choose, I am a fan of gravy and putting it on basically everything on the plate during Thanksgiving dinner. But I
Okay.
don't know. There's probably some other things I'd rather have besides turkey. But like I said,
Yeah.
unpopular.
Well, yeah, I don't know. Turkey, I haven't eaten meat in like 30 years, so but turkey wasn't one of my favorites when I was eating it, so okay. And Sharon, how are you doing? Oh, I can't hear you. Can anybody else hear? No. Oops. Huh. I don't. Hey, Lane, we're just doing introductions, icebreaker stuff. We're talking about our favorite holiday foods. Oh, I'm sorry, Sharon. Yeah, I don't hear you. Um, hmm. Aw, sorry. Well, I mean, you can always get out and come back in. Sometimes, no, that's not gonna work. Uh, okay. Well, you could write in the chat, I guess. Tell us. Sorry. Um, well, yeah, Lane, we're just doing our names and our organizations and our favorite holiday food.
Okay. Want me to go ahead?
Yeah, why not? And Sharon can write in the chat or she can I'm not sure how to help.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, Lane Burgess, Southeast Idaho Council of Governments. And, I would say my favorite holiday food is applicable during holidays or any day of the year, and it's tacos.
Tacos. Wow, that's excellent. I love that. I've never heard of holiday tacos, but I like it. Why not?
Mexican food for for Christmas is the best.
Okay, cool. And what do you like in your tacos?
I like the carne asada and pico de gallo with some
Nice.
guacamole and then maybe some salsita a little bit. I don't know.
Okay. Cool. And another one for mashed potatoes. Thank you, Sharon. And white chili. Okay.
Can
All
you hear
right.
me?
Oh, now I can hear you. Yeah.
Amazing. Okay.
Ah,
My
fantastic.
mic settings somehow got changed. I have no idea why, so I apologize.
That's okay.
Anyway, I think it's all good now.
Okay, great. Well, welcome. And Sharon's here from Oklahoma.
Oh, yeah, Oklahoma City.
Oklahoma City. We got some urban folks.
Yeah,
Cool.
Thunder, #1 national championships.
Excellent. Okay. Well, good. Thank you all for playing along. It's just, I don't know, it's nice to get to know each other in different ways. So we did this. Thank you. Again, I'm just to remind you where we are and what this is all about, talking about creating wealth, rooting it locally, and building livelihoods. And these are our forms of our 8 capitals that we continue to use. And here's where we're at. We've kind of moved past the SEDS and we're moving into value chain development. And we're going to get into mapping next time we meet. But right now, I wanted to refresh our memories about demand since it's been several weeks and a holiday and things are getting to I feel like this time of year is like, it's kind of like the lost weeks. But anyway, I thought I'd just refresh our memories a little bit. We had my old boss Shauna on last month talking about demand, and these are some of the things we talked about, these different kinds of demand. We talked about knowing demand partners and meeting the needs of your demand partners. And we talked a little about what those demand partners are. So like not necessarily the end consumers, but those businesses or organizations that actually serve the end consumer, because you can't talk to every consumer, right? In order to understand what consumers want, you need to have an intermediary that connects supply and consumers. And we talked a little bit about what makes a good demand partner. They understand market demand. They're looking for things that they can't find. Their volume of demand is greater than can be met by any single existing business. They're interested in partnering with regional companies and building a regional economy, and some others. So flexibility to adjust their procurement practices, willingness to invest, and just basically good partners. And then we talked about like, how do you figure out who these demand partners are? And like, this really depends on what sector you're thinking about, but, you know, sometimes we think about, you know, what is actually currently being produced, including like, what are the byproducts that might be made into something else? Underutilized resources, any entrepreneurial ideas, and those different kinds of demand. And oops, there's Alejandra. And yeah. Hi, Alejandra. We just did our kind of checking in, our icebreaker, and we're just kind of refreshing our memories about demand before I move us forward into kind of the next step. But do you want to do our icebreaker was favorite holiday food? Do you want to do a quick hello to everybody and weigh in on your favorite holiday food?
Hi everyone, Alejandra. I'm based out of Minnesota with Region 9 Development Commission, and it would have to be pecan pie. I love eating pie during the holiday season. And I always have meetings on Wednesday, so I feel like I'm always running late. I'm sorry about that.
That's okay. It's good to have you. And mine was pie also, pecan pie. My stepmother makes she drives me crazy, but she makes a really good chocolate bourbon pecan pie. So yes, I'm with you. Great. Well, back to here. So we were talking about how to identify potential demand partners, how to build relationships with potential demand partners. I know Shauna mentioned, you know, doing some research to understand what their story is, developing questions to ask. It's really a conversation, making an appointment, and then, you know, again, being sure to explain that you're not really selling anything, but you're trying to understand what their challenges are, what their pain points are. And we talked about potential questions to ask, like these. The biggest challenges, what do people want that you can't supply? What would you want to be able to buy and sell? Do you have interest in buying something from within the region? And what, you know, again, what matters to you outside of making a profit? Like, are there other elements to demand? So we walked through all of this. The homework, again, was to identify a couple of demand partners and do some research, and then actually have a couple of conversations. So before I move us into kind of what comes after this, I just wanted to see if anybody had the opportunity to do that. Have those kinds of conversations or identify some demand partners that make sense in your context. So I thought we didn't have our checking call, or we did. Anyway, it doesn't matter, but I thought I'd just check in and see if anybody had the opportunity to do that. And or learn anything from that process. But I see you shaking your head, Edwin. Anything you want to share?
Yeah, I'll go ahead and give some details about mines. So I did mention originally that I did wanted to do a call with someone from the aerospace industry, but I couldn't. So instead, I was able to get someone from the nonprofit side. We have been working, I'm sure I've mentioned them before, Little Growers Inc. They're urban farming nonprofit organization trying to teach, the children and anybody else, both in the city of Melbourne and Palm Bay, which is just like about 30 minutes from NASA.
Uh-huh.
Teaching them about urban agriculture. So I was able to hop on a call with this CEO, Camille,
Mm,
and I kind of gave her the same questions that you have provided in the template, and
yeah.
I think that really helped with kind of lead the conversation and also expand from there as we were talking.
Oh,
Um,
wow. Great.
Let me see. There is so for the first question, the biggest challenge mm, uh, uh, that she has as a business or a nonprofit was funding capacity
Mm,
and finding workforce, since
yeah.
it's expensive, especially now with the cost of living. She's very self-aware that she wants to be able to pay all of the people that work for her, but at the same time, it's very hard to find funding for
Mhm.
that. But fortunately, she has said that retention has not been affected, even though she would like to pay her workers more. Let's see, what was something else that she said? She said there was one question about would the would the person be willing to buy a product or service from within the region if it were available? She
Yeah.
says that one of her mantras for her organization is making sure that everything is locally sourced, both products and services.
Mm,
But sometimes there is a struggle to keep purchasing power within the community.
yeah.
Sometimes it's not available or it costs way more than, extracting it from outside of the community or the region. So I
Yeah.
did find that interesting.
Yeah.
Um, and let's see. One other question was outside of making a profit or fulfilling your mission, which would count for her. What matters most for her, and for her was basically just helping out the community, being in alignment with the environmental impact, and being cognizant of how everybody's work impacts the environment, regardless of what industry. So
Mm,
yeah, we did had a very long conversation, but those are just some of the details that I wanted to
great.
share because it's a lot. But yeah.
Yeah, no, that's fantastic. So, did it lead you to think about a particular market opportunity? It sounds like maybe workforce.
Mhm.
Funding is
Yeah.
always, right? Funding capacity is a never-ending problem, but workforce seems like something that's maybe within your wheelhouse, right?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, being able to connect with organizations like Career Source. I'm not sure they
Mm-hmm.
exist outside of Florida, but connecting with those type of organizations that help people find jobs,
Mm-hmm.
and
Cool.
and then being able to find potential pool of people who are interested in agriculture.
Yeah, absolutely. Thinking about I guess urban agriculture, are there potential like demand partners for the agriculture side too? Are there,
Mhm.
you know, institutions, restaurants, retail that would be interested in
Oh yes,
purchasing
for
the
sure.
things that they're producing too? So that seems like, yeah. Cool. No, that's great, Edwin. Thanks for sharing. Anybody else have any
Thank you.
demand partners they've talked to or identified in the sectors that you're thinking about? Okay. Okay. Well, I'm happy to talk anytime. Like, I know Jared couldn't make it today, so he and I are going to chat tomorrow about the work that's happening. So, as you're I feel like this is an ongoing process. So, as you start to reach out to demand partners, I'm happy to like chat about what that looks like and, help develop questions or help, figure out what comes next. But, okay. So I guess the next piece of this is really like once you've had those conversations, and presumably you would have had a few, um, and I think some organizations and some communities really already have an idea in mind. So this is really relevant if you have multiple ideas. For instance, I think Shauna mentioned a group we were working with, what is now Communities Unlimited, and they were thinking about all of these different kind of energy value chain ideas. And for them, it was they needed to decide between like a solar value chain or this kind of like a bio, sort of like a biodiesel kind of crop-based fuel. And they went through a process similar to what I'm going to share with you to figure out which one to do. Now, some communities, they have lots of different ideas, or maybe they have just one, so this doesn't really come into it, but still useful because I feel like even with this group, I feel like some of you had multiple ideas, and how do you make that decision, right? You can't put all your resources, and you can't spread your resources out so far to accommodate so many different ideas. You need to focus. So how do you do that? And that's what I was hoping to talk about today is how do you choose between these ideas? So first of all, I keep using the word market opportunity. I thought I'd kind of define what that means. So, typically we think of a sector as an economic sector, meaning a group of businesses in the economy that share related products or services. So below, like tourism is a sector, biofuels is a sector, grains, textiles. But to get to the market opportunity, we really want to think about, going deeper, right? Like it's not easy to build a value chain around something as big as tourism. That's like too big. So the idea is to find a market opportunity. So something a little bit more specific, again, specific and place-based, with great potential to generate multiple forms of wealth within the region. So I was working with a group in New Hampshire. We were talking about tourism, but when we kept talking until we could narrow it down a little bit, and we kind of got it to this rural bike tourism idea, and that became our market opportunity. Grain, I mean, there's so many grains, right? So how do you choose? And this was another one where it was really about malting barley for beer. Biofuels, that's the example I was just talking about with Communities Unlimited. This was in Arkansas, and they were trying to decide between solar or this, they wanted to do kind of like a fuel, like a seed-based fuel. And they decided to choose camelina because it used the fallow fields in the winter. So they could double down on their acreage and plant something in the off season that would create fuel. And they also had a university nearby that was doing research on camelina. So it was kind of a no-brainer for them. And then textiles is also a really big sector, right? But this is, again, another example, high-end green clothing. So the idea is to kind of narrow down that sector into something that is a market opportunity, is something that you can actually build a value chain around. A sector is really too big. So I know Shauna, I think, probably talked about the work we did in Afghanistan. When we narrowed it down, we narrowed 100 different potential opportunities down to 2 that we were going to kind of illustrate how to get to a value chain. One was wool and one was tomatoes. But again, those are still kind of big. Like I know I did wool and Shauna did tomatoes. And on the wool side, there are so many things you can make with wool. So how do you narrow it down? And so I think through our market research with demand partners, we narrowed it down to the things that were in demand. And in that, some of it was actual fiber for like weaving, or some of it was blankets. Wool can be used in lots of things, insulation. I mean, part of our job was to figure out all the things you can do with wool and then figure out where there was actually demand. So anyway, this is a really useful exercise for kind of drilling down to what is it you're actually going to build your value chain around, because you can't just say, we're going to build our value chain around agriculture because it's just too big. You can't do it. You need to drill down to, a group of products, so kind of a piece of agriculture. So these are just some examples of what that looks like. And how do you select? So there's different ways of doing this. So one way of doing it is defining the target group that you're trying to work with, and understand their goals. So for instance, if we're thinking about agriculture, maybe the target group you're trying to support are a group of small farmers that are growing some particular products. Maybe that's where you want to focus your efforts because you want to work with those particular target groups. So that's one way. Another is just comparing. I'm going to show you in a second, using criteria to choose. So colleagues of mine developed this kind of criteria, like a worksheet where you would compare market opportunities using particular criteria. And that is another way of doing it. If you want to be it's kind of quantitative way of comparing these different ideas. Preliminary demand research, I think we talked about this a little bit, but that's another way to kind of figure out, I mean, it's kind of what we're talking about, what your assignment was for last month was doing some preliminary demand research. Like what do these partners need? Some of it's even broader. Like when I'm doing demand research for a particular sector, and I've done this for different clients, I look at trends. I look at, I can give you an example. I was working on a feasibility study for an immersive art museum here in Vermont. I had some acquaintances that wanted to build this immersive art center. And the demand research was like, first of all, like in other places where they have these kinds of museums, how's it going? Like, how far are they bringing people in from? And, what are they willing to pay to go to something like this? And then it was understanding in the place, this was going to be in Burlington, Vermont. So how far could we pull people from and what are people looking for? So that preliminary demand research is kind of what you guys, again, would have already done, like we've been talking about, like what what Edwin was sharing, but also broader, like you can think about it, what's going on nationally in that particular area, what's going on regionally, and again, drilling down to, what the demand is in the particular place. And then the stakeholder decision-making process, that's another way of thinking about selecting a market opportunity. Presumably you have some ideas, maybe you have 2 or 3 ideas for a market opportunity to build into a value chain. Presumably you have a group of stakeholders who care about what you're doing, and you can have a conversation and a process with that group to figure out what's going to make the most sense. I still think the criteria for any of these is still really helpful, and I'm going to share that with you now. this is something my colleagues at Rural Development Initiatives developed, and you can see some of the criteria, and that you rate it on high, medium, or low. So the number of people, this should say from. So relevance to target market. So are there people who are actually interested in being involved in this sector or value chain? And are there folks who actually would be interested in starting or developing businesses in that area? And then wealth building potential, like is there actual market demand? Are there jobs or new businesses that can be created? Is there demand for those kinds of businesses? Is there the potential to increase ownership and control over some of the local and regional assets? And will it build multiple forms of wealth for the region? And then feasibility is always, as someone who does a lot of feasibility studies, this is really important, right? Like you don't want to develop a value chain or a market opportunity where there's no demand, right? This is all about, is there enough demand to attract investment and to be successful? So you can see demand partners identified, the willingness of market players to adopt new practices, prospects for attracting investment. So you could come up with any number of criteria. These are some kind of basic criteria for choosing among a variety of different kinds of market opportunities. I could also, you could also think about, things that come to my mind is, are there actually businesses on the ground now that are interested in actually collaborating to support a particular market opportunity? Because you're probably not going to come up with something from thin air. There are businesses that you're going to be trying to engage over time. So, and I guess I'm kind of going to go through these a little bit more. So preliminary demand research, what does that actually mean? It means actually talking with businesses on the ground who are interested potentially in what you have. It's like what Edwin was just talking about. Like what are their challenges? What are they looking for? That's what that is. And that's what the assignment was really about, was trying to start on this preliminary demand research. What are other sources of demand? What scale are we talking about? What kinds of buyers should we be talking to? What kinds of added value can you provide? And are you able to replace imports, right? Some of this is about import substitution. So can you create opportunities to produce products or services within the region that would normally be coming from outside the region? So how can you do that? And then talk with current and potential buyers. Again, still talking about demand partners, but it's so important for this work to understand again, this is a demand-driven process, so it's about understanding what people want. And then the stakeholder decision-making process, which I briefly talked about, but this is going a little deeper. So these are some of the things that you might be thinking about in a stakeholder decision-making process. So what assets can we build on? What's the competition look like? Is there competition? Does it make sense to even pursue this particular market opportunity given the actual competition? And scale. Is it scalable, right? We don't want to create a we don't want to work on a market opportunity where it's only going to support one business. That's just called entrepreneurship, right? We're talking about value chains. So we're talking about opportunities that will support multiple businesses. So scale is really important. Attainable. That gets back at feasibility a bit, right? Like, can we actually do this? Like, is it something that is realistic for us to do? And do we have the support that we need to get there? And then energy and enthusiasm. You can't really underestimate this. I feel like if there aren't people who are excited about it, you're probably not going to get very far. So These are some of the things, some of the conversations you might start to have in this decision-making process. Yeah, that's kind of the basics. So these are just, I guess I've kind of breezed through them, but like these are just some different ideas of how to make those decisions. And then the next step in our process is, I was hoping that by the next time we talk, you all would have some idea of a market opportunity. And again, it doesn't, you know, it's this is a fairly short process that we're all going through together, so I don't necessarily expect it to be like the end all be all of market opportunities, but something to work with as we think about actually mapping a value chain, because that would be our next step. So I'm just gonna stop talking for a minute and see if anybody has any questions or thoughts about, market opportunities that you're interested in considering as we move into mapping, or any other conversations that you've been having around, any other kind of, demand partner ideas you might have in the sectors that you're thinking about.
Melissa,
Yeah.
you're gonna have to forgive me because I am never the sharpest tool in the room, and so I have to ask and maybe have you paint a clear picture in my head.
Yeah.
So I have ideas, right? And we said agriculture. Well, agriculture is the biggest, the primary
It is.
economic driver, at least within our region. That's major, right? So you want to break it down.
Yes.
And so I look around and I say, okay, well, Southeast Idaho, potato. Okay, well, that's already being done, right? Like
Yeah.
the food, all. So then we break it down further past that. Is there anything else? Well, there's a potato chip factory that's starting up out in a rural area. It's big for the town, but I don't know if that itself is going to be sustainable where they're at and how they're doing it. And so like how do I guess
Yes.
how do I even get the idea to go talk to this lad guy, this owner, and say,
Yeah.
how can we help you
Yeah.
create wealth around you in this area? Like, what do you need? Or I mean, is that what I do? Do I just say, what do you need?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's one way. I mean, actually, if you think about potato chips, right? Like, I mean, so yeah, I think you could totally talk to that person, that owner, and be like, what are the challenges that you're experiencing, right? And are there, what's making it hard for you to do your business? I think that's always a good conversation to have, and it's probably good for you to know what their story is anyway. But that may lead to demand partners for that business that you also might want to talk to. So for instance, if he's making potato chips, like who is he selling them to? And like, are there challenges he's having in terms of um finding demand partners? Like, maybe there's I don't know, institutional partners that would be interested in what he has to offer, right? He's probably selling them to retailers. Could he sell them to institutions? Has he made those connections? Is that something that you can help with, and do some demand research? Because ultimately, the reason to do the demand research is to find out what people want, right? Like he may be making something and maybe it's not what the market wants. So, I mean, hopefully he would have done some demand research of his own, but maybe there's some new product that through talking with demand partners, he can expand his offerings to meet that demand, right? Or maybe there's some partnership that can happen with another producer where it's like a value added product. Who knows, right? Maybe it's like a potato chip, I don't know, crust or I don't, yeah, I'm not a big potato chip
Sounds
person,
good.
but yeah, I mean, so I think it's kind of both. It's talking to him to understand like what his challenges are in doing business in the area. And maybe, I mean, the other thing is like how far afield is he selling his product, right? So if he's, maybe that's another way you can support him is in figuring out beyond whatever his current, selling radius are there other potential buyers and what are their needs? The idea though is to meet the market demand. So who is the market for what he's selling and what are they looking for and can he provide it? So I think that would be a good start.
Well, and on the back end of it, he's also
Yeah.
wanting to do agritourism, so attract people
Oh,
to the potato
yes,
plant to see the whole
absolutely.
process. So I feel like there's something there that we could leverage to
Absolutely.
create like a community
Yes,
out there. But
definitely.
I just, yeah, I
So
don't
on
even.
that side, I mean, if we're talking about agritourism, I would talk with the chamber. I would talk with like any of the tourism folks in the area, right? Like whether it's a tourism agency or a convention and visitors bureau, whatever it is in that region. I recognize it's probably small, so maybe they don't have that. Maybe it's talking to the town or the county about tourism, but that's on that side, on the tourism side, I think you'd want to talk to someone who could talk about who's coming to the area, what they're looking to do, right? Like, is there demand for agritourism and what kinds of agritourism, right? Sometimes it's like a tour of the facility, sometimes maybe it's like um, a tasting offering, right? Or a special dinner like that incorporates things that he's producing. So I think on that side, the demand would be I think local government, local county government, any tourism agencies, maybe hotels, good demand partner would be like lodging who could say, we have people coming in from these places and they're looking to do this, and this, right? So yeah, I think that could
Okay.
be, I think the agritourism angle is the angle that might be fruitful.
Okay.
Right. He's already making potato chips, so I mean, you can try to expand that to other kinds of products, but I think the agritourism angle sounds like a promising one.
Okay, well,
Yeah.
I'll
Does
return
that
and
help?
report. Yeah.
Yeah, that's exciting. Very cool. All right. Thanks, Lane. Yeah, anybody else? Anything on anybody else's minds? And again, I know like these things come up and this might not be the time that you want to chat about it, and I'm fine talking anytime. But that's the process, kind of like what Lane and I were just doing is like you have this idea, like how do you follow it to a natural point of building something, and even that potato chip, the agritourism idea, again, is something that's going to support the potato chip factory, but also will support tourism, lodging, dining. It supports a whole value chain of different partners. So that's what we're looking for is like opportunities that don't just support one business, but can support multiple businesses or organizations. So that's what we're going for. Anybody else? All right. Quiet group. So, um, so I guess the homework was really going to be to continue to reach out to demand partners, if you haven't already, and then, if you have multiple market opportunities, use some of the methods that we've talked about to actually narrow it down. Our next call will be really about mapping. So I'd love for you each to have an idea, at least some idea that you can maybe follow through, because that homework the next time will be about actually mapping something out. And again, it doesn't have to be real. When we're mapping a value chain, we're really mapping what we want it to look like. So it doesn't have to actually be there, but it just you have to have an idea that you can follow through, which is what we'll do next time. But yeah, so anyway, I mean, I'd love for folks to have reached out to somebody, and have some answers, and maybe narrow it down to a market opportunity that we can bring into that mapping exercise. Which I think will be, I think that's really where kind of the rubber meets the road a little bit. It's kind of right now we're in this kind of part of this where it's a little nebulous. You're not really sure how to get things to reality, right? But the value chain mapping kind of, I think, brings it home to what does this actually mean, and how do we start bringing these groups together? And again, I should mention, again, I'm not convinced that EDDs are the ones who are actually building the value chains, right? You're supporting them. So we're going through this process this way as education, so you can be thinking about value chains that you will want to support at some point, or encourage your partners to develop. So with your support. So again, I'm not suggesting that you're all going to be building value chains, but I do think that you could be great partners and technical assistance providers for those who do want to. So anyway, that is my spiel. Here we are. We're at number 4. And we didn't, we're actually, I won't be around for this 17th call. And since we just had our call today, I'm not sure we need it. But that being said, I am available. Like Jared set up a call with me. I'm happy to kind of talk about your individual situation. If there's, if there's something you want to ask about, or you've had a couple of conversations and you want to figure out what the market opportunity actually is, I'm happy to do it. So please feel free to reach out. So the next time I will see you will be on the 14th of January. So, and then we'll do some value chain mapping, which I think should be fun. I enjoyed doing it and thinking through that process. And then we'll talk about, what comes out of mapping. I mean, mapping a value chain is an exercise. It's not kind of the end all be all of this. That's not the end goal. The end goal of a value chain is to understand, how do you make it operational? And you make it operational by identifying the gaps, bottlenecks, and underutilized assets you can bring to bear to make it successful. So anyway, that is where we're going. We're halfway through, and I'm enjoying getting to know you all. So as always, the WealthWorks website is a great place to go to learn more, as is the NATO Wealth Creation website. And I'm going to keep pushing this. I'm now really getting into planning this in earnest. The 2026 EDD Wealth Creation Summit is in Bend, Oregon, April 14th to the 16th. If you have any interest, I think we're going to be opening a registration just after the new year. And I'm planning, I just had a call today about mobile workshops. We have some really cool mobile workshops we'll be doing. I got a plenary speaker, Kimber Lanning from Local First Arizona, who does some amazing local kind of local business, local economy work. And yeah, I'm super excited. So look out for that. Like I said, just after the new year, we should be opening registration. It's at a beautiful lodge on the river there. I think it's the Deschutes River. I'm not really sure. I have to get up to speed on my Oregon geography. But yes. Anyway, the registration will be $100. We try to keep it really low because it is grant funded. So that doesn't help with travel costs, but it is it will be in partnership with the Rural Development Initiative's regards to a rural meeting, which should be great also. And that's what I've got for you today, but I'm happy to chat or answer any questions or talk through any market opportunities that you're thinking about. If anything's on anybody's mind, I've just been blabbing, so I apologize. Any questions, concerns, market opportunities that you want to chat about? Gonna stop sharing because, yeah. Anyway. Sharon, yes, please call. I would love to talk. So, and yeah, some of this is very like individual, right? I mean, I can only share so much that is relevant to all of you, but where you all decide what you want to work on or at least explore is where we can go a little deeper. So, but I love the ideas that are coming out so far. It should be fun. Yeah. Okay. Quiet group today. I won't belabor it, but I'm here. Feel free to reach out. And if not, I hope you all have amazing holidays. And I will look forward to seeing you all on January 14th.
Awesome. Thank you, Melissa.
Okay. Yeah, of course. Good to see you all. And yeah, have a great
Okay.
holiday season.
All right, to you as well,
You
and to
too.
everybody else.
All right.
Thank you.
All right.
Yes, thank you.
Thank
Thank you,
you.
Thanks,
guys.
Melissa. Happy
Yep.
holidays, everyone.
Yes. You too.
Have a
Thanks.
good one.
Yep. Bye.